Good morning. I'm Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some of the observations I've had from recent uh, assignments that have been turned in. And then hi McKenna. Then I will also be talking a little bit about this next module that we're working on, which is color and texture. And I'll be finishing that up, the edits on that, and you should see that by Friday night. The first code word for today is going to be lavender. All right. There have been some really interesting projects that I've seen people do with the foam carving and the paper or cloth mache, and I'm really impressed with a lot of them. Now that project was designed to use the tools that you have in your kit and the big block of foam, carve it into an organic biomorphic abstraction, and then cover that with, or treat the surface of that with paper or cloth mache, using some of that stuff that's in the kit as well, and then painting it. And some of the things that have been turned in, people have stopped at one of those steps, but remember, those are the three steps: carving, covering it with paper mache, and then painting. Excuse me. And I just wanted to reiterate as well that anytime you turn something in, if you don't, if you aren't happy with it or you didn't get it done all the way, you can always resubmit it right up to the end of our time together. In fact, one person was concerned about getting the bibliography done in time, and so they submitted the citations with outlines of what they were going to write with in the annotations, and I just waited until they finished everything, and that's when they were graded. And other people have revisited things that were already graded, so we could regrade them. Right. It looks like McKenna, you are here, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I see Kenya.
Hi.
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 And Jacob.
Hello.
Hi. Okay. Jacob was the lone voice in one of our meetings because he was the only one that was online at the time, and he had to answer every single question. So I'm glad there's more than one person here today. Thank you. One thing that I've noticed about the annotated bibliographies is that you guys have been really, really careful in getting everything done for that, and I really appreciate that. Uh, Everybody's turned in the 8 citations. Some of the annotations are better than others. The annotations should be 5 to 8 sentences, and some people have turned in abbreviated ones or outlines, and that's fine as long as you revisit it and turn in the 5 to 8 sentences, and that's when you get your full points. And the other thing to keep in mind as you're doing that is reference that very first assignment in the research module about where you look at your own self-identifiers, and then you're looking at the things that make that artist that you're researching different from you, as well as thinking about why their art resonates with you. And although you don't need to explicitly talk about that in your annotations, it's really good to have that in the back of your mind as you're going through. And you can even talk about them specifically. Like, for example, if your artist is Ai Weiwei, he just recently did an interview that was on LinkedIn, and just talking about what it meant to him as an artist and social activist, being stuck in prison for a while. I believe he was in prison in China. And when you're doing an annotated bibliography about perhaps that video, you can even address, yeah, he is from China and he's a man and he works a lot with this kind of art. And even though you're not saying it directly, you're pointing those out because they are different from you. So that's just one example. Have any of you had difficulties with the annotated bibliography? Jacob, have you had any difficulties? Or has it all been really pretty successful?
I'm still working on mine. I mean, I have a bunch of assignments to turn in because there's just a lot of stuff for Memorial Day weekend and work got in the way also. But yeah, it's going pretty well so far.
Okay, good. Good, that's good to hear. How about you, McKenna? How are you doing with your annotated bibliography?
I turned mine in, and I'm doing Sandy Skogland,
Okay.
and I found that like there was a lot to, um, like there were a lot of like things on her. I did have a hard time like at the beginning finding things that weren't just like articles about her life and about her work, so I had to dig a little bit. But I ended up finding some good like videos, and then just used a couple of her pieces as well.
All right, that sounds really good. I like that approach because you're not just doing a biography, which we did not want to do. You know, you're talking about her work and what goes into it. So I really appreciate that. How about you, Kenya? How is your annotated bibliography coming?
So I'm also like just kind of starting it, but it's going well so far. I think it'll be good. I'm doing Yayoi Kusama, I
Oh
think.
yeah, I really like her. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I think that you and Jacob sound like you're uh, getting a good start to it. I really like McKenna's approach because not limiting yourself to biography really opens it yourself up to a broader understanding and appreciation of the artist that you're working with. And I think that that's really good. The other thing that I've noticed that I really like is people are doing a mix of articles like, and it seems to be these three pretty consistently. One is, and these articles are either going to be videos or written articles, but one is kind of where somebody is trying to introduce an audience to the body of work and the artist. Another type is where somebody is examining either the meaning of a particular project or the process involved in a particular project. And I really like that. And then the third one is just finding videos where they're either the person is either interviewing the artist or is talking as they're showing the artist's work. And really like those three different things. And the two next elements of the research project will be the PowerPoint presentation, and the last one will be a reflection and opinion paper. And when you guys do a really good job on this annotated bibliography, I think it has the most points out of all of them. When you do a good job on that, everything else falls into place pretty easily because you already have pretty much a rough outline for what you're going to do for the PowerPoint. By the time you're done with the PowerPoint, you just reflect on what you learned, and write it down, and your paper's done. So that's I like where you guys are headed. So this sounds really good. Now the next module that we're going to be working on. Oh, did you guys also see the Monday's video where I went through um, the next quiz, the quiz for Module 4, the structure and structure with skin?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to touch on that a little bit, and then I also wanted to talk about the texture and color. Structure and skin, the two examples that I gave were, if we look at the Eiffel Tower, is that structure or skin primarily?
Structure.
Yes, absolutely. And if we look at the building, Statue of Liberty, is that structure or skin primarily?
Skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the difficult elements of this project is finding that balance between sharing the structure with somebody and kind of building up the skin, because we're doing both of those. Now, I would highly recommend that you guys look at Frank Gehry. If I can get that video to play, I think I'll even see if we can get it to play today before we part ways. But I really like his approach, because one of the reasons why I really like his approach is he is using traditionally very static materials, very stiff materials, and he is turning them into something that is very much skin-like and very much invites you to participate within the the building itself. And I think that that's remarkable. Let's see. So all the different artists I think are really really good, and I it would be totally completely worth it to. Okay, hold on a sec. Noise is going to be. Okay, all right, good. I have that ready for when um, I'm getting when we do a screen share in just a minute. But watch all those videos while you're working on stuff before you start doing your structure and skin. Ideally, what I'm thinking about this project, the best way to approach it is to start with a simple building block. And you can use a platonic solid building block. You can use, like, for example, a cube or a tetrahedron. And I would make that building block out of uh, the chopsticks or the skewers or the sticks that you have, coffee stirrers, whatever, something like that in your kit. And you can put that together with hot glue. You can put that together with the tape that you have. But I would make just several things that are about the same. And then I would start going through again and use some sort of a paper or a fabric and cover one or two of the facets of each of these building blocks you've made. And this works out best if you make at least 6 building blocks. It's going to turn out better. And look at the student examples in the module as well. And I'm going to pull that up really quick here. I say really quick. It's not going to be really quick. It's going to be about my speed, but let's see what we can. Give me just a second here. I really love a lot of the features of Canvas, but some of the things they feel really counterintuitive. Uh, when people do intuitive designs, it's always a little frustrating to me because I don't know whose intuition they're working with. Okay, I'm going to do a screen share and show this to you. All right, you guys can see this, right? This is the assignment page. What's that? I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I was just saying we could see it.
Okay, all right, great. Now, this is what I'm talking about. See, on the far left, this person made structures that are basically boxes. They're kind of rectangular They're not cubes, but they're rectangular boxes. In the middle, you have something where they look almost like overlapped tetrahedrons. And on the right, what you have, somebody has just made a whole bunch of trapezoids that they've kind of joined in almost a snake-like way. And can everybody see the modules that I'm talking about that these people made?
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the left, the person used cardboard to cover up at least one of the faces of each of those rectangular boxes. In the middle, the person used, it looks to me like a tissue paper to cover two triangles on each of the modules. And in the far right, the person used tissue paper again to cover some of the trapezoids, and some of them they split the trapezoids in half and just covered the triangle. Can you guys see my mouse cursor?
Yes.
Okay. You see right here, there's the trapezoid shape, and then they split it in half diagonally, and then just coated it with the triangle. Then down here, we have the trapezoid shape almost from that we see almost from on edge, and they coated the whole thing. So from this perspective, it looks like a triangle, but it actually is a trapezoid shape. Now, if we look at the Eiffel Tower, you can see this kind of bears some resemblance to those struts in the Eiffel Tower. But then we also have some of those sides being covered. And it's not every side, and it's not completely regular. What I like about this is they're forcing involvement with the viewer. When somebody tells you you can't look at something, or when somebody is obviously hiding something from you, what is your first reaction? And you almost can't help it. What's your first reaction?
You look.
Yeah, you want to look. It's called the monkey mind. We are naturally curious creatures. We want to look. One of the points to this exercise is hiding elements of your structure in an irregular way so that your viewer wants to look. You're inciting their curiosity, and that gets them immediately involved whether or not they want to be. I mean, we can't help it. I mean, we're curious. We have to see. And so if we look at this middle image, you see on the bottom, we can see a really good shot of the principal building block that they've made. And on this one, they've always covered the same two triangles. But one of the things that they're doing that's really fascinating is they're spiraling these structures out. It looks like they've made 8 of these building blocks, and that's a really good number to work with. And they've spiraled them so that, like here, this bottom one, we have the left-hand edge of it is pretty much occluded. We can't see through it. But on the right hand, we can see through and see structure of the next couple pieces. Right, the second one back, we see the same kind of thing. On the left-hand side, it's kind of hidden. But again, these two triangles aren't in the same exact spot, and so we can kind of see a little bit in. But on the right-hand side where it's open, can you see that structure of the next pieces? Can everybody see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right, good. And this forces an interaction with your viewer because they want to find out what's going on. Like, this is hidden. Why is it hidden? Well, we can look at these other areas that aren't so hidden. Here's this, even though these are the same shape as this, because they have a different orientation, they're hiding different parts of it. And we have a little bit of different interaction with these struts, even though they're all the same shape. And so I think out of all 3 of these examples, this center one is probably the most effective. The other is we are looking at a project where we are trying very hard to balance both the structure and the skin. And that's a difficult thing. I think that this one has, on the left, this one has a little bit more skin than exposed structure. And on the right, this has a little bit more structure than exposed skin. But I think they both kind of work. However, I do think that the one in the center is the most effective. Can you guys kind of see what's going on here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to, please tell me if I lose you. Can you guys see this screen that I just switched it to?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to play this video. Tell me if you hear the sound, okay? Did you guys hear the music?
No.
Okay, I'm going to try, I'm going to see if I can play this and see if you guys hear any speaking, and then I'm going to pause it and see. Could you hear that at all?
No, I couldn't.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try to redo the screen share and see if we can get it to work. Yeah, could you hear that at all?
I couldn't.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to try anymore because I don't think that this will allow me to do it. But this is the master class with Frank Gehry. And can you guys see this screen with the three images again?
Yeah.
Can you guys see this screen?
Yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to do is show you where this video is and just tell you guys or have you guys watch it. But if we go to research for, all of these people, you need to watch all these guys while you're working on your stuff. But if we come down here, scroll down, this is Frank Gehry, and right by number 8, the master class is the short video I want you to watch first. And I really like his stuff because, like I said, he is playing with these ideas of structure and skin. Sometimes he'll put the structure on the outside of his work, his architecture, and he really plays with the idea of skin. One of the things he loves is mimicking or calling to mind the ideas of folded cloth, because in his mind, things like folded cloth represent comfort, like a blanket thrown over a chair or something like that. And so I would recommend watching that first, and then just starting from the beginning and watching everything. Another person that I really like in this series is number 9, Buckminster Fuller. One of the things you'll notice is that all 9 of these artists, and I think almost all of the artists on that list of 75 that we have, they talk very much about not just producing a product, not just making something, but they are also talking very specifically about things like bringing something new into the world. Buckminster Fuller and Frank Gehry both specifically talk about making the world a better place than when you started. And I really like that perspective from the artist's point of view. Okay, I'm going to turn off screen share now. Let's see. All right, Lauren, you just joined us?
Yes.
Okay. All right, second code word today, for all those viewers at home in the recorded environment, is going to be tree. Do any of you have questions about, after looking at the quiz for this thing and after going through a little bit of that module, Do any of you have questions about the structure and skin project? You have a lot of different stuff in your kit that you can use for this. I would recommend trying to use like the sticks, the chopsticks, or coffee stir or drink stirrers, or different things like that that are in there. And if the masking tape is a little bit clunky, sometimes the hot glue will help. And I've also had people tie this together with string, and then they'll use glue to glue either tissue paper, regular paper, or other things down. Some of the things that have been less successful is people have also tried to use organic components to make the structure. And that becomes problematic because one of the elements of this is making a module that you can make several of, like 6, 8, 10 of these modules, putting them together. If you're using something organic like sticks, it's going to be very difficult to make modules that are very similar to each other. Another thing that's been problematic is when people use something for the skin like leaves. I think leaves would be just fine. I mean, Andy Goldsworthy has done some of this structure and skin type of work using leaves. The problem comes in when the person focuses on the leaves as themselves as opposed to using the leaves as a covering. You know, if you take the leaves and trim them to fit your modules and then glue them in place, just like their paper, that is a really good way to handle it. If you leave the leaves on their twig or their vine or whatever and just tuck that in and have it kind of sticking out to hide some of your structure work, that doesn't fit with the parameters of the project. So as you find different elements, different materials to use, consider that and try to really keep in mind that balance between allowing your viewer to see the structure, sharing the structure with them, and kind of occluding it with the skin, and also using it to support the skin, because you're dealing with all 4 of those kinds of things. And again, why are we, or what is one of the reasons why we're invoking the monkey mind by hiding part of this? Why is it important as artists to sometimes invoke the monkey mind of your viewer?
Maybe to make them want to keep looking.
Yeah, absolutely. Art is more often than not, or a lot of the times, viewed as merely a product. We're just building something and then it's gone. Actually, art is a communication tool, and it spawns an interaction. Now, the people generally that are interacting, which is the artist and the viewer, are not interacting in the same time period. They're interacting at different moments. But when somebody views your art and engages with it, on one level, they are very much communicating with you, even though you can't respond to them right away. What is fascinating is the more a viewer looks at your work, the more they'll develop questions inside, and the more your work will be able to start answering and addressing some of those questions, even though you in person are not there. You've put enough of yourself into that work that your viewer can actually engage with it and have, from one perspective, something of a conversation. When you, the structure element of this kind of a thing is also kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit and allowing your viewer to see it, a portion of the process that you've undertaken to build something. And I think that that's kind of exciting because that allows the viewer, from one perspective, to become part of the building process. They can't see inside your head, but whoever is viewing your thing is also asking on some level in their brain, why is this person making these choices? Why are these pieces here? Why are they joined together like that? Why did they use these kinds of materials? And in many cases, whether or not those questions are fully satisfied for the viewer, the process of asking those questions and um, helps them to look at it more closely. And the process of looking at it more closely helps them to engage with that object and um, ultimately to engage with the artist or you. So those are all things to kind of keep in mind. Have you ever thought about that? Is that your art, whether or not you're present, is an ongoing conversation between you and your potential viewers?
I think personally, I don't really have like that in my mind when I'm making stuff. But it's interesting to think about. Like most of the time I'm just worried about like getting it done. I'm not really to that point of like thinking about like who's gonna even look at it. But so yeah, that's interesting.
Well, this last month I've been clearing out. My mother passed away almost 20 years ago, and I still have a lot of that stuff. And we were my kids and I were clearing some of that out and organizing it, seeing who it should go to. And it was fascinating to me because even though she's hasn't been around for almost 20 years, it is really interesting to see that some of these objects that were made by her, my kids and I can still feel that kind of a connection. And when we go to a museum or we see art from somebody whose work we enjoy, whether or not we really actually know that person, by interacting with their art, their artifacts, there is some sort of a connection there, and it's really kind of fascinating to explore that. But it's also important to know that the work that you do, and I'm not trying to give you any pressure or stress or anything like that, but the work that you do, as long as it is around, not just that, but as long as the memories of your work are around, there is that bit of a presence of you. And it's I don't know if you've gone through your portfolio from early student days until now, and some of the stuff you made for some of your classes, if you're anything like me, they were very cringeworthy, and you're just embarrassed that your name was ever associated with them. But it's interesting to me that when we look at that, the emotions that we have are almost as strong as when we actually made the things. And sometimes they're even stronger. But I just think that that's fascinating. Okay, as we move towards the next project, and this next project is basically texture and color. What we're going to be doing is making 6 texture tiles that are all squares and then 6 color tiles that are all squares. The 6 color tiles, what you're going to do is go to things like paint stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, maybe even Walmart, and just look at their free stuff in the paint and design. And you can even go to like Hobby Lobby, Joann's, and Michael's. They also have free design guides that you can borrow. And what you're looking at is not so much the design guides, but the paint chips and the colors, the color imagery. Because you're going to make 6 little collages that are only about 3 inches by 3 inches. And each of those 6 are going to deal with a different way of addressing color. Like for one, you'll be doing complementaries. Another one would be split complementary. Another one would be tertiary color sequence. And by using these free stuff, you can even get magazines that you can cut pictures out of and stuff. You're just making a little teeny tiny collage about 3 inches by 3 inches. And then for texture tiles, you're going to do the same kind of thing with different textures and do whatever textures you want, and then paint it all the same color. And you can use spray paint or whatever. Doesn't matter. And then at the end of that, you're going to stick these together as cubes and just look at the different faces. So that's basically what the project is. But to prepare for this project, I want you guys to do something which I have used as a meditation. I'm a certified chaplain, and one of the things that I like to do is have people process meditation in a little bit different way than what you guys have probably heard about it before. And this particular meditation is called the Senses Journey. I'll describe it to you, and then this is actually part of the assignment as well. What you'll need to do is determine a place to go and do a short journey in. And this may be a walk through a park. If you are confined to your apartment for COVID reasons or whatever like that, it may be just a journey through the apartment. Or if you have like a scooter or a wheelchair, maybe it is a journey on a path or down a sidewalk somewhere. It almost doesn't matter where you go. What is important is that you spend 10 to 15 minutes on this journey and you look at everything and explore it, broadening your senses as much as possible. So, for example, if you're in your apartment, you look at your carpet and you focus on the texture of the carpet. Maybe even you reach down and feel it. But you really look at how the light plays on the different elements of the carpet, where the shadows fall, what the colors are, what the light and shadow do to the colors. And then on this 15-minute senses journey, you explore things like what can you hear? What other elements can you see? How does the texture manifest itself visually? How does it feel when you touch it? And I'm talking about the texture of whatever it is in the environment that you find yourself in. If you do your senses journey in your apartment, really closely look at the furniture. Look at the different objects that are in the apartment. Look at the glass of the window and the windowsill, the paint on the windowsill. Look at the fabric of the upholstery. Look at the carpeting. Look at if you live in an older apartment, there's probably a popcorn ceiling. Examine that. But pay really, really, really close attention to the textures that you see, how light plays on the textures, and the colors of these different elements that you're looking at. What you're doing in this meditation is replacing your reasoning capacity with a really strong focus on exploring your senses as you look, as you examine. If you are, for example, on a scooter or a wheelchair and going through a park, as you go, pay really close attention to just the texture of the pathway that you're on, the texture of whatever the ground cover is. If it's old growth detritus, or if it's leaves, or if it's grass, if it's freshly mowed or not, if it's weeds. Maybe paying attention to the bark on the different species of tree that you see. Maybe looking at the different sizes, for example, of the pebbles on the ground. How the pebbles look, maybe some are wet, some are dry. But pay really, really close attention, like I said, to those elements that you can interact with your senses. Artists or sculptors generally will use the sense of sight and the sense of touch more than anything else, but there are other things that are available to you as well. A lot of sculptors don't really pay attention most of the time to the sense of smell, and maybe, I don't know, there are different smells that we interact with where there's almost a physical component. Try to imagine what that physical component would actually feel like with your fingertips. And as you do these walks, it might even be a good idea to gather, well, it would be a good idea to gather some examples of some of the texture you see. For example, in your apartment, popcorn is a really good texture. On your walk, shredded bark is a really good texture. Or your outside journey. Some other good textures might be from your apartment, rice. From your outdoor journey, maybe grass clippings. But there's a lot, and you can mix them up too. Maybe you do both of these. Maybe you do 10 minutes outside, 5 minutes in your apartment, and you come up with a number of different kinds of things. And when we were doing hybrid classes and meeting in person, one exercise that I would have students do is collect at least 3 different textural components from one of these census journeys that they went on, from their apartment or outside or wherever, and bring those in class and then spend 10 minutes just making a composition with these textures, not paying attention to the color necessarily, but just paying attention to the textures, and just spending a few minutes making something of a textural collage on a piece of cardboard. That might be something that would be interesting to explore for the actual assignment. But the point of this is to just kind of introduce yourself to the colors and textures that are surrounding you. Whether or not you live with them all the time, or whether you need to go out to a park or an outdoor stroll, is almost immaterial, because if you do this, round about minute 3 or 4, you'll start noticing things that you didn't realize. Well, you'll realize that they were always there, but you just hadn't paid attention to them. So I think that's a worthwhile exercise. Does anybody have any question about that census journey? All right, if nobody has any questions about it, I'm just going to go through everybody alphabetically and just ask you where you think you're going to go on your census journey. So Lauren, it looks like you're alphabetically first. Where would you go?
I'd like to go somewhere outside. I have a hiking trail near my house that I might do.
Is it in the mountains, or is it down in the valley?
In the mountains.
All right, that'd be excellent. When you do that, it might be interesting to just think about yourself too. Just explore the idea, the sounds that you hear and the smells that you smell. How could you represent those as physical textures? And I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just wondering, it would be really interesting to hear from you next week some of your ideas about that. Like, what would a bird song feel like if it was a mix of macaroni? Something like that. It would be interesting to hear from you. All right, that sounds great. How about you, Jacob? Where are you going to go?
Probably just take a walk around my neighborhood. I live on a hill, and it overlooks the Utah Lake.
I think that'll be. How close to Utah Lake do you live?
Probably a few miles.
Oh, okay, so basically it's a visual outlook. You don't have to deal with the aroma.
Yeah.
That's a blessing. No, I think that would be really interesting. I think that'd be good. Excellent. How about you, McKenna? Where are you going to go?
I think I want to go outside as well. I think I might go along the Provo River, on one of those trails up Provo Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure which one, but there's some really nice ones up there, so I feel like that's a good idea.
Well, and there's at least 4 parks up Provo Canyon, aren't there? Even before you get to the Sundance turnoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds excellent. Very good. Where do you think you're going to go, Kenya?
I was actually thinking too, that I'd like to go somewhere with water. So either the lake or the Provo River. I just feel like somewhere with some water would be interesting.
I like that. Personally, I like the sound of, excuse me, water in the background when I'm taking one of these census journeys. I like the sound of water, and I like the sound of bird song. just when I'm walking around. It helps me to calm down and meditate. I would recommend, though, you know, the Provo River between where Macy's is in Provo, and then underneath State Street towards the park over there. I would recommend staying away from that area. Or if you're going to do that, go with at least 2 other people. I've just noticed that there are when people that I normally I don't really care, but if people that I know are going to be walking in that short little area, I'm concerned for them, because that is one of the areas where there's a lot of really uncomfortable interaction with some of the people that have made their homes around there. And most of the people that make their homes in that area are really super cool. I'm talking about the folks that sleep under the bridge there. But 1 out of every 10 causes a little bit of concern. So be really careful. Wherever you go, I would recommend that you either stay in sight of other people or you take somebody with you, just so that you're safe. But I think you guys all sounds like a pretty good plan. I would recommend doing that sometime in the next couple days. And like I said, this module should hit Canvas tonight or tomorrow, and then you'll get a better understanding of what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions about the quiz that I went over on Tuesday? It looks like Lauren and Kenya are the only ones that saw that, or at least they let me know that they saw it. Is that helpful to you guys for me to go over the quizzes like that?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful.
Okay, good. And do you remember at the very beginning I said that there are a couple questions in every quiz that are ringers, where the question is only, I mean, you can answer it right in a couple different ways, but if you have the textbook, you are going to answer it in a completely different way than if you don't. Have you guys noticed that? There's always like 1 or 2 questions like that. The thing that comes to my mind is, what is the simplest definition of a line? Who got that right on the first try?
I only got it right because you talked about it, but if I would have just like tried to define it myself, it would have been way different.
Yeah, absolutely. But that quiz, doing the open textbook quizzes, I think will really helps everybody. So, oh, I was going to say something else and I completely forgot it, and it wasn't on my agenda for today, so I guess we're going to have to live without it. Sorry about that. Okay, the third code word is plumb bob. Do you folks have one last call for questions? Do you folks have any questions about the stuff that has been covered so far, or the stuff that's coming up that you see on Canvas? I did put the last assignment for the research project on there, which is the reflection/opinion paper. I was trying not to do that. I didn't want to put all those on the same time because I didn't want to stress anybody out. Do you guys feel like you've got a handle on the research project? Does it seem to make sense the way that I've explained it?
Yeah, it makes sense to me, and I think it's really helpful that it's like split up a little bit so it's not overwhelming all at once.
Okay, good, because we were doing that so that everything was in its own module, and it looked like everything was due all at once. And I don't know, after about the 6th or 7th student gets a nervous breakdown, it kind of makes me wonder if I should go back and redo it. So that's why we split it up. And can you see how doing the annotated bibliography will really help with the remaining two assignments, McKenna?
Yeah, well, when you said that if you do the annotated bibliography well, like the other two kind of just fall into place, that makes sense. After going through all of those sources that I cited, I can already picture like how my PowerPoint is going to go and how that paper is going to go as well.
All right, excellent. Very good to hear. I'm glad about that. Right. If there's no more questions, this Thursday meeting should be about an hour long, and I think we've covered everything we need to. So we're going to end a couple minutes early. And I would just want to make sure that everybody is all ready for this weekend. Please let me know with emails. I know that there's a number of people that have put some stuff on the discussions, and I've gone through and I've done the first part. I've given them half grade and say, just let me know when you get the other comments or pictures put up, and so you can get full points. Most of you guys have been letting me know, and that's really helpful. I thought Canvas was supposed to let me know when you added stuff to an assignment, but for the discussions, it doesn't always do that. So if you tell me via email when you've added the second part of the discussion, I can go in and do that. I did have one student one year get upset and chastise me for harassing her because the assignment wasn't even due yet. And it was just one of those things where I saw that somebody had done something partial. I put the grade up and said, yeah, just let me know when you finish it. And they chose to feel a little sensitive about that. So if that does bother anybody, I am sorry. That's not the intention. It's just to let you know I am trying to be aware. And by tomorrow night, I should have all the grades that are up there. All the assignments that are on Canvas right now. I should have everything graded by tomorrow night, so you guys all know where you're at. Also, I wanted to let everybody know too that if you feel we should have a special meeting to deal with something, to clarify something, please let me know, and we will do meeting at a different time. The reason why we're meeting Monday morning at 8 and Thursday morning at 8:30 is because of feedback that I got when I first was emailing everybody before class started. Everybody needs to attend 5 of these sessions live. If these times are not, and this is for not just you four that are here live, but also for everybody listening to this, if these times are not working for you, you need to let me know right away so that we can schedule other times so that you can have that live interaction component for your attendance grade. All right? If there's no further questions, I hope you guys have an absolutely smashing weekend, and I will look forward to seeing everybody Monday morning. All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you guys.